Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the statutory public meeting of March 8th, 2021 for 4 Windward Drive. The basic premise of this meeting is to provide the opportunity for the public to provide input on a proposed development application. To ensure a fair process, members of council are to hear public input, but not to engage in debate about the merits of the application. Opinions on the application should not be made at this time. Members will have the opportunity to express all their views and concerns when the final staff report and recommendation comes back. Each participant will be called in order and will provided 10 minutes to speak. Each presenter may speak only once. When you are called, we ask that you state your name and address. Persons addressing council should confine their remarks to the business at hand and shall direct their comments or questions to the chair. This meeting is conducted in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. All participants are asked to conduct themselves with decorum and respect and provide the opportunity for all members of the public to express their opinion in an environment of tolerance on all points of view and free of intimidation. The intent is to create a venue to encourage people to participate in the process and provide their input. Thank you. Live streaming. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. Only those people who have registered as a delegation have been provided the Zoom link. If you have not registered but would like to provide comments, you can do so by emailing planning@grimsby.ca. Please address your comments and questions through myself, the mayor. Do any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest with respect to the application being heard? If so, I don't see any. If a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Grimsby in respect to the proposed zoning amendment and official plan amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the zoning official plan amendments, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the town of Grimsby to the local planning appeal tribunal. Number 2, if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Grimsby in respect of the zoning official plan amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal. In the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. All right, moving forward. First up, we have our presentation from Margarita Cosentino, our planner. Margarita, welcome.
Good evening. I'm wondering if okay, yeah, just waiting for the screen to be shared. Okay. There we go. Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of council, and all community members that are joined here tonight. We're gathered here tonight for the public meeting for the property 4 Windward Drive, and the applications before us are official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. Next slide. So this evening, our agenda is as follows. First, we have the planning department presentation. Second, we will have the applicant presentation. And third, we will have comments and discussion from the public. Next slide. Okay, so the purpose of tonight's meeting is held under the Planning Act, and it's a requirement of all applications. Verbal comments received tonight will be part of the public record of this meeting and the application. And members of the public who make verbal comments at this meeting will have the right of appeal under the Planning Act. Next slide. So here is where we are in this planning process specific to this application. We have a 6-step process and we are at the 4th step, the statutory public meeting. And then after this meeting, staff will do the analysis and review and any final revisions to the applications. And that will be followed by a staff recommendation report and council decision. So under the Planning Act, property owners, individuals have authority to submit applications for development that do not meet current OP or zoning bylaw. They can make these applications to amend those plans and bylaws, and the town is required to process these applications. Next slide. So amendments can occur to the official plan and the zoning bylaw amendment when an application is made, and that the applicant must demonstrate overall conformity and consistency with all provincial plans, regional plans, and local plans. Next slide. So tonight is just one example of how the public can be involved in the planning process. I encourage you, everybody listening or participating tonight, to visit our new public engagement platform called Let's Talk Grimsby. And on that webpage, you can see there's a spot dedicated just to this application, and there's an open feedback and section where you can leave questions and comments. And also you can, like the mayor said, write or email planning@grimsby.ca, and you can also engage with your local councillor and send your comments through them. Next slide. So the subject lands are located in the Winston Road secondary planning area, and they are currently have the Casablanca Inn located on them, and they are just the property has frontages on 3 roads: Windward Drive, North Service Road, and Winston Road. Next slide. So the application, or right here, you can see the concept plan, and the application is for 2 mixed-use podium-style buildings. One is proposed to be 12 stories, one is proposed to be 19 stories. The 12-story building will have a 3-story podium, and the 19 building is proposed to have a 4-story podium, and there is an outdoor amenity space. There will also be commercial retail space, hotel, and also a hotel. Next slide. So this proposal, some of the key metrics for the proposal include 420 residential units, 72 hotel rooms. Again, each of the buildings would be 12 and 19 stories. The density is proposed to be 4.83 floors for an FSI, floor space index, or floor space ratio. There are 909 parking spaces proposed. The retail space is proposed to be 1,792 square meters. The outdoor amenity space is 1,500 square meters, and the amenity area is 4,219 square meters. Next slide. So this subject lands have the following categories in the OP. It's located within the urban settlement area and major intensification area. It's designated residential mixed use area. And in terms of on Schedule B, we see it's residential mixed use area. And then when we go further down into the policy layers, we see the Winston Road neighborhood secondary plan, in which it's designated mixed use high density with the Winston Road Main Street overlay. So the current zoning for the property is neighborhood development, and like the applicant has done, they've made an application to amend it, and they are proposing to amend it to mixed use high density with some modified exemptions for setbacks and height. So we have received comments from various agencies, and here we have Niagara Region. They're generally supportive of the application. They've offered some comments in terms of design improvements to the underground parking, the podium design. as well. So all these comments will be provided to the applicant, as well as some new comments we received today about the wind study and the sun and shadow study. Both of those studies require some updating and before they proceed. Next slide. Other agencies that have commented include the MTO. They've notified us that the subject plans are outside the MTO permit control area. Public Works has also commented. They are requiring updates to the traffic impact study, and some detailed comments can be addressed at site plan application. Grimsby Power, we have not received comments from them yet. Enbridge, no comments, and Grimsby Fire requires like pretty standard things such as 24-hour contact number for security, and alarm company and fire safety plan with other comments. So next steps, we are going to continue to receive the public's feedback, comments, and questions, and any outstanding agency comments. All that will be forwarded to the applicant for them to address. Then staff will begin to prepare the recommendation report and bring that forward for a decision in front of council. And lastly, we are also going to be setting up the Section 37 Community Benefits Working Group, as this application is eligible for Section 37 benefits. And now I'm going to pass it on to Martin, the applicant's consultant from Western Consulting.
Thank you, Margarita. If you could bring up my presentation, please, Walter.
Yeah, Walter's just momentarily, he'll have that up. He's just switching over presentations right now.
Thank you.
Welcome, Martin.
How are you? Hopefully everyone's well.
Very good.
Good.
How are you?
Been a long day.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
Right, we're just still waiting on Walter's having a little bit of technical difficulties. It's moving slowly, a little slower than expected. So please bear with us.
Martin, do you have any jokes you can tell us while we're waiting?
Put me on the spot. Wow. I don't have any planning jokes. I apologize.
I have one.
Oh, let's hear it.
What do the Greeks say when an official plan amendment is passed?
Oh.
Opa?
Yeah.
Opa.
Very clever.
I hope we get to say that soon.
That's funny.
Good guess, Martin.
I think I've heard that before in my planning circles.
Martin, tell me you're at an office somewhere and that's not what your home looks like, because it looks very corporate behind you.
No, that is my office here. Very stark, very white. But no, I'm in the office this evening.
Gotcha.
An important meeting, so I wanted the quiet. I've got some young kids, so they can be a bit of a distraction sometimes.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for your patience, everybody. I just want to make sure I have the most current presentation for you, Martin. So if you just bear with me for a second, I had an old one that was queued up and I just realized it was the wrong one. So it'll be just a second. Thank you.
Thanks, Walter.
say, John and Charles, that people are really thrilled. The pool is open for the community to use again. And I was down there using the spa services over at the Casablanca next door. And people were coming in to use the pool, and they were just very thankful with the COVID level we're in and the safety measures you guys are doing, that they were able to book some time in there in the pool. So that's just a wonderful community asset that people are really appreciating. So thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. It's obviously, as you know, we've had to have it closed for quite some time, but recently we're able to reopen it based on the current conditions, and it's been well received so far.
And we're hoping that there's going to be a nice big one in the new building too.
You know there will be.
Yeah.
Just tell me you walked over it though. You didn't drive.
In my slippers. In my slippers up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. Okay. I was gonna say you live close, so.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to opening the restaurant. Oh, we're good?
Okay, yep. It's a PDF. So I'll share the screen now. And unfortunately, I was looking for a PowerPoint. It's a PDF. Okay, it'll be 1 second. And here we are.
There we go. There should be a full screen view available under view and help.
View.
Yeah.
There we are.
There we go. Perfect. There we go. Okay. Let's rock and roll, guys.
Go, Martin.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Martin Parker-Pohm from Weston Consulting. I am a senior associate and planner with Weston, and I'm here on behalf of TRG Casablanca, Inc. to present their official plan, OPA, and rezoning applications to seek the redevelopment of 4 Windward Drive. With me tonight is Mr. Mellenbacher from Rosso, and he's joined by Charles Mady and Ron Steibel, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Rob, from Rosso as well. And we have our architects in the virtual room here with us as well. We have Nick and Mohammed from WZMH Architects. And I also have with me Allison Nazir, who's a planner with Weston, who will be helping me out, taking notes, and ensuring that we have a great public record of tonight's meeting. Next slide, please. A few of these slides that I've got prepared here have already been covered by Margarita. So I think what I'll do is do my best not to repeat previous comments. I can certainly come back to a slide or two if people need or ask for clarification, for more information. But outlined here in, let me go back. Thanks. Outlined here in red is the subject lands, and I'm pretty sure most people here are familiar with the proposal. We've been at this for quite a few years, and I can get into a bit. But what this slide kind of shows is some of the transitioning that's happening in the Winston neighborhood. This is an older image from 2017, but the majority of the lands to the north are built out with 4-story and 6-story mixed-use buildings. We have townhouses to the west of us, and very recently I believe 20-story high-rise under construction next door to our east. So that's a bit of the context that's surrounding the property. Next slide, please. This slide provides a bit of the planning policy framework that applies to the property. The lands are in the urban settlement area, and this is a location where the majority of growth and development is to occur within the town. On top of that, we have the red dots overlay, which is the major intensification area. And again, this is where the town has elected to put the majority of its intensification and growth. On the right half of this slide is the official plan and land use map. And this designates the property as residential mixed-use area. The property, as mentioned earlier, does have a secondary plan. It's within secondary plan area, and that plan provides more refined policy frameworks for development within this area. Next slide, please. So this is the Winston Road secondary plan land use map. The property is highlighted there in black. The lands are within the mixed use high density designation, and the land uses are on the right hand of the slide. which permits various residential and commercial uses. Of note are apartments, townhouses within apartment buildings and mixed-use buildings, commercial as part of mixed-use buildings and hotels. And the reason why I mentioned that is the proposal. Those proposed uses are components of this redevelopment application. What I'll also note is that this designation has restrictions on height and density. As noted in the previous presentation by Margarita, the permitted height in this designation is 12 stories, and the density permission is 3.0 FSI. Next slide, please. Sorry, one more thing. Could you go back, Walter? Just thank you. It's going to highlight that hatched area that covers the northern portion of the lands, and that is the Winston Road Main Street overlay. This is intended to direct staff and the town to take a study to look at how to develop the pedestrian and public realm on Winston Road. And within my presentation, a few slides later, we'll see the evolution of that study. And again, as most of you probably know, the construction for Winston Road and its redevelopment have already occurred. That streetscape has already been rebuilt. Next slide, please. This slide provides an outline of the permitted zoning on the lands. As mentioned earlier, the site is zoned neighborhood development. This is more of a placeholder zone to allow for development applications to come forward. I do want to note that the lands to our east were formerly ND, Neighborhood Development Zone, but through their development process and approval process, they were rezoned to the mixed use high density, the MHD zone. And our proposal is seeking to do the same. Next slide, please. This slide provides, again, an outline of the Winston Road streetscape study that was done a few years ago, back in 2016. It's a bit outdated now, but I just wanted to outline and highlight the efforts the town has taken to really invigorate this corridor and to really make it shine with the landscape treatments and the street parking, the lay-by parking areas, and the wider boulevards for the sidewalks. And we tried to incorporate that throughout our site and around our property. So we do not intend to upend or remove that streetscaping treatment. We wanted to carry it through the site and around the property because it is quite nice and it is an important piece of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the very long history this development site has gone through. And I won't go through each slide or bullet point here individually, but I will highlight a couple of items that I think are important. The first being our first submission of this site was in 2017. We spent months before getting things ready, but the formal application to the town occurred in December of 2017. And this incorporated a development that was only partially on the property. And I have a few slides that will illustrate the old design from 2017. I was before this committee, May 2019, so nearly 2 years ago, for an open house to present that design option back a couple of years ago. Sorry, 2018, I apologize. We got some feedback that was concerning in terms of the proposal at that time. As a result of that feedback, Rosso took a bit of a pause on the process and did a reevaluation of the lands and to understand what could better be done to lay the property out, as well as provide something back to the community that wasn't just a tall building, essentially. So following that pause, we met with the public following that meeting, and ultimately we refiled our development applications. We actually rescinded the old one and filed a brand new one back in December of 2019, which is the applications that are before committee today. This is the second submission of that material, and we've gone through some revisions. You'll note on the slide here that we've had 2 open houses very recently in September and November. We had a virtual open house that was not well attended. And ultimately, we felt it would be beneficial to have an in-person meeting at the hotel with COVID protocols to ensure that we can get the proper public feedback. And that was well turned out. We had a proper sign-in process and signed RSVP, and we got some great feedback from that meeting. Next slide, please. So why are we here? This slide outlines the requests we're seeking through our official plan amendment and our zoning bylaw amendment. So as far as the official plan, we're looking to increase the height to 19 stories from the 12 and increase the density to 4.83 FSI. And I want to make clear, because there have been some questions about the height in terms of if it's going to be several 19-story buildings, and the question is, or the answer is no. We have one portion of our phase one, which I'll get into, that is 19 stories, while the remainder are 12 and under. The zoning application seeks to again rezone the lands to mixed-use high density with some site-specific permissions. The first, to increase the height to 19 stories. The second is to reduce the front yard setback along North Service at a pinch point on the proposal. The next is to reduce the exterior yards. This is the north and south property lines to 0 meters. And then to reduce the rear yard, which is the east side of the property, from 7.5 to 6 meters. Next slide, please. So I'll go through these rather quickly, but what we're looking at here is the original 2017 proposal, where we're looking to redevelop the eastern portion of the lands, which included the vacant parking area of the property. We wanted to maintain the operation of the hotel, and even at that time show an extension to the hotel. But the result of this design configuration left a bit to be desired. And if you go to the next slide, there we go. That was the proposal back then. It was a big building consisting of a 22-story building up front and 19 in the back on a 5-story podium with the majority of that podium with parking. I believe we have 4 stories of parking above grade, commercial at grade along the property from north property line, and a couple, I think 2.5 of parking below. So the parking really was driving the massing, and the design proposed here didn't really fit the character of the neighborhood, and it didn't really fit the site. So again, this is the reason why we pressed pause on this process here, and we took a step back to reevaluate how we could make things a bit better. Next slide, please. Here is the current proposal that we have before the town. As outlined, we're looking at 2 buildings. The eastern portion is our phase 1. That dotted line adjacent to the building is the facing line, and the eastern portion is phase 1. We're looking at a 4-story podium that will house retail, commercial, a new restaurant, hotel units, as well as amenity space. On the other part of the building, the 11-story portion, that's where we'll have additional hotel space, the new banquet facility, a brand new pool and spa for those who are interested. And the 19-story portion is at the southern portion of the lands. And that is the only part of the property that is at 19 stories. So for this building, we're at 4, 11, which is under the permitted 12. And again, that 19 stories for that tower, for that one building. Moving our way westward, we've got this boomerang shaped building, which is our phase 2. And this is, again, a mixed use building. It includes retail along the inside of Boomerang facing Winston Road, and residential throughout with amenity space. Access for this development, in terms of underground parking access, we've got 3 levels of underground. For phase 1, it will be from Winston Road. And then for phase 2, it'll be from Windward Drive on the south side. And that circle in between that loop is strictly a drop-off pickup area. Pizza man, your Amazon guy, this is where all that function will occur. And then in the center there, where it's predominantly white, that's all pedestrian. All of that will be hardscaped and landscaped. And we've got a bit of a open space parquet proposed, which I'll get into. But this kind of outlines the majority of the property that will be open as opposed to covered with building. Next slide, please. This identifies the various components of the both phase 1 and phase 2. You can see the retail and restaurants as part of phase 1, which face interior to the courtyard. Again, the access from Winston Road, the loop drop-off area, which provides access to the lobbies of both buildings. And then with the phase 2 12-story building, what we've done is put 2-story townhouse units up front onto North Service and to Windward Drive. So these will have interior access from internal corridor, but will look and feel like the townhouses that are on the other side of North Service Road. The drive underground access will be from Windward Drive. Next slide, please. Parking was one of the bigger concerns in terms of this proposal. We were originally looking at a reduction in parking, but through conversations with the public and even staff, we were told that we needed to meet the parking rate. So we have 3 levels of underground parking at 909 spaces in total. And looking at the way that the calculation was done, we were able to reconfigure a bit, and now we are exceeding the parking requirement. So the bylaw requires 899, correct? 899, and we're providing 909. So we have an excess of 20 parking spaces, which we're looking to dedicate towards visitor parking. We do know that there is a bit of a parking shortage within this area, and we want to offer that up as public parking to be used by residents and other visitors who may want to use the park on our property or go shopping nearby. Next slide, please. So this provides a bit of a breakdown of what was proposed 2017 and what we're proposing now. I'll go through very, very quickly. You can see the numbers and pretty straightforward. We've got the height changes, the density changes, the unit increase because we are adding more building as opposed to what was originally planned, the parking supply of 909 with the oversupply of 20 spaces. We're adding a dramatic increase in commercial space, new restaurant space, new retail. We've got amenity space for both buildings, and key at the bottom here is that parkette area, which is about 1,500 square meters. Next slide, please. This is the landscape plan that kind of illustrates the landscape soft spaces, the hard pedestrian spaces, as well as the drop off and how that relates with the building entries for both phases. You can see the amount of green space that we're trying to incorporate, which, to be frank, doesn't exist right now. So we're looking to add a bit more than what's there to soften that space and to add a space that can be used not just for the residents of this building and its development, but also the public at large. And this next slide, please, provides a bit of a zoomed in visual of this courtyard area. Now, I said before at various meetings in the past that we're showing a landscape treatment for this courtyard, this parkland area, but really it's a blank slate. Our intent is to have this be designed, developed, programmed with the community. So following our zoning approvals, hopefully, we would work with both town staff and the public to figure out what's needed here. Is it something like this where you have some hardscaping, some sod, some grass for kicking the ball, some seating areas? Do you want a pavilion? Do you need a play structure? These are things that we don't have the answers to now, which I'm glad we don't, because we want to get them later. So as part of the next programming of development applications and processing, we'll be working with staff to open up a way to get that feedback in terms of how do we program this space in a way that doesn't just suit this development, but suits the Windward area as a whole. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. The next few slides are, I think, some pretty impressive renderings of the buildings from various angles. This shows a great view of the courtyard area. Again, it's been designed, programmed, but it's really a blank slate. It identifies the various components of the building. Where you see the vertical wood slats, those are where the retail and public uses will be. We've got, again, hotel with 72 units or rooms being proposed at this time, a brand new banquet hall facility, pool up on the 11th story, which will give great views of the water and the lake. And this also gives you a good understanding of where is this 19 stories in terms of the proposal. And again, it's I think fairly clear that it's only for a portion of our phase 1 building, and it's not across the entire site. Next slide, please. This is a view from Windward on the south side. You can see the entry where the vehicles are in the center of the image, as well as those 2-story townhouses. You can take on the left half of this image, you can see the different kind of treatment that bottom pedestrian realm really has to the streetscape, which again doesn't exist now. Winston Road is needs a bit of work in terms of the sidewalk treatment and streetscape treatment, and through this proposal, We'll be integrating street sidewalks with landscaping treatments, again, that aren't there today, and that will wrap up North Service and over onto Windward Drive. Next slide, please. Again, a zoomed in area to see the significance of this parkland area. This is what I'm honestly most excited about. This is something that most developers don't often do with proposals, where they kind of offer up a public space for public use. To be a bit clear, this won't be a land dedication in the sense where we will give the town ownership of the land. What we'll be doing is working with staff to understand the appropriate agreements that will be in place to ensure that the public have access to this space, where they can grab a coffee, get a newspaper, sit, watch their kids play on the grass without having any fears of trespassing. We want this to be open to all and planned by all. Next slide, please. Next steps in terms of how we want to move forward. As mentioned, we've received some comments from town staff, and it'll be up to us to satisfy those comments before a recommendation is brought before council. We'll be hopefully getting that done hopefully fairly quickly. We want to see this site redeveloped soon. We can all appreciate that the hospitality industry is suffering these days, and I think by moving this ahead, we'll be able to create a brand new development with a brand new hotel that can cater to a lot more than it does right now. Following that approval, we have scheduled a a pre-application meeting later this month to discuss the site plan application. There is still more application approvals to be granted, working through the detailed design of the proposal. So right now we're only at the official plan and rezoning stage, and then we have to go through the detailed design of both phase 1 and phase 2 to ensure that all the building and design is sufficiently designed and does work. Next slide, please. And that's it. I'm at the end of my presentation. If I ran a bit longer than 10 minutes, I'm sorry, I apologize. But I'm here for questions. And again, I've got people from Rosso as well as WZMH to answer any questions related to the building or to the timelines of our redevelopment project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Martin. Now we move to delegates. First up, we have Mr. Ken Weeb. If you can just state your name and read your address. State your address. Thank you, Ken. All right, we don't seem to have Ken here. If he comes later, we will accommodate him. Next up, we have Nick DeFlavio. State your name and address, please, Nick. Welcome.
Hi, folks. Hello to everybody. My name is Nick DeFlavio. I live at 335 Main Street West. I know many of you, so hi to everybody. I just had a couple of concerns that I wanted to bring up, and a lot of it looks great. I'm happy to see the parkland. I'm really happy to see the banquet facility and hotel coming back. So those are all great things. Those were, of course, some of our concerns years ago when this proposal came forward. The maintenance of the hotel is a very important part of the neighborhood, I think, and it really does. It's really important to the town of Grimsby. Over the years, we've seen how important the having the hotel and banquet facility is for the town, and it kind of serves as a hub when it comes to things like charitable events and things like that. So John and crew, I'm happy that you guys have brought that back, and that's going to be part of it. The only concern that I had is, and I wanted to bring it up, was the appearance of the streetscape from Winston Road. I have some serious concerns about the way the streetscape looks from Winston Road. I looked at all the presentations. I couldn't find a view from the street of what the buildings will look like. There are lots of kind of sky views and you know, where you're panned back, but nothing where you really see it up close. And part of what we tried to create down there, and one of the things that we emphasized with the previous developments, was the Main Street feel and the, you know, the ability to, the walkability and the fact that it, at street level and from the street, the scale seemed, you know, human. So I'm not talking about the size of the building, because, you know, the way that it's designed, I actually like the fact that it stepped back towards Windward, and it's going to cast less of a shadow and all those things. But I do have concerns about the corner of Hunter and Winston, or sorry, that would be the service road in Winston at that corner. And the way that the building looks from the street on Winston Road itself. I like the fact that Martin mentioned the trees that are going to be planted, terrific, but that doesn't say anything about the way that it actually looks. And when I looked at one of the images, and I don't know, maybe Walter can scroll back, but when I looked at one of the images, it's hard to tell, but it looks like is there parking on the ground level, or is that a drive-through for the hotel, like a drive-through entrance to the hotel? And if so, I would really like to see it look more like, you know, more like a downtown. So maybe the hotel fronts onto, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I'm not the planner and I'm not the developer, but I don't know if that's wood, if that's meant to look like wood, or what that is. And I don't want to ramble on. So my concern is the way that it looks from Winston. If you look at the opposite side of the road, it doesn't really match what we've done there. In the neighboring building, we went a long way in trying to make that street view human scale, and I don't think that that's what happens here. It looks like, in fact, the corner, if you look to the bottom left, I don't know if that's an entranceway or what it is that's going to open and close. Is that what that is? Is that some sort of door that opens and closes in the northeast corner of the building that you can see in the bottom left there? I don't know if somebody can answer that or not.
Martin, did you want to answer that?
Sure. Thank you, Nick, for your comments. So maybe I'll start with your quick questions backwards. That is a man door that provides access to the Phase 1 underground garage. So in that northeast corner, there will be vehicles exiting and entering from that. And then that's where the parking will be accessed in terms of that location. To your other comments about the pedestrian feel, the podium there is 4 stories, which is consistent with the massing that is on the opposite side of the street. So we tried to frame things appropriately in terms of relatability on having the 4-story portion and then jumping back behind the podium with a bit more massing up to the 11 stories. So we've tried to bring the building as close as we could to the street and create that pedestrian scale and to frame the streetscape and the sidewalk and other public elements that's not on our property. I think the challenge that we had to balance was what happens when you move past Phase 1 into Phase 2. We looked at options where perhaps we don't have the park there, it's on the backside to maintain that streetscape, but I don't think that makes much sense in terms of having it on the backside of the building. So it doesn't provide the consistent street wall that is on the north side of the street, but I think having a public open space with, in this image here, parkland and pedestrian activity works as well as having a solid street wall. To your other question about the materials of the wood-like feature, I don't think it's wood. I think it's supposed to replicate wood, but perhaps my architects from WZMH may want to provide some initial comment on the exact intent of that materiality. So perhaps Nick or Mohammed?
Yeah, it's Mohammed Al-Lathiri here from WZMH. So in terms of the materiality that we're using for the lower levels, we wanted to use a warmer tone palette of materials. So that would kind of replicate the warm tone that we have for the adjacent townhouses. So we create this kind of plateau of massing that would mimic that overall look, the warmer material. In terms of material, like what actually we're using there, it's not really wood. It's going to be like a metal panel with a tone, like a bronze tone to it. We will have a line of trees that would be facing or framing the street. So this would add to the warm tonality of the podium level.
Thank you. And I think I've heard, or maybe rather agree with the comment about the door. The look of it appeared to be a steel or some kind of tone that may interrupt the visual of that facade. So I think we can take that back, Nick, and see if we can pick something a little better that better suits the building and the streetscape that doesn't quite interrupt the visual as you move along the building from west to east.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, because it's hard to tell what is to the east of there. So this picture, thank you, Walter. I think it's Walter that's controlling this thing, shows the people at ground level. When you look at the larger image that was on previously, it looks like a big solid wall that at ground level. So it's hard for me to tell, but that looks like it looks like a big brown, I don't know what that is at the lowest level, right at the street level, where you see the tiny humans beside that door. I don't know if that's a big solid, but it looks like a big graffitiable wall to me. I don't know what that is. So if somebody could tell me what that material is, maybe it'll make me feel better and kind of help alleviate some of my concerns. But there's some spectacular parts of the design, so I don't want to, the 11th floor pool and all that. There's some really, for lack of a better word, cool stuff in here. It's just the ground level is very important to me. And I think it was a very important part of the design concept for Winston Road, for that neighborhood. And I don't think that matches the intent. That's all I wanted to say. So something to chew up, think about. I always envisioned if the hotel was going to go there, for example, that the restaurants would front onto it would be in that corner. Or looking out onto and it looks like it is, but it's further looking at the ground floor plan. It looks like the restaurant is on the ground level, but further back, further south within the building. So that's my concern with the building. Other than that, I don't have much more to say. So thank you for your time, everybody, and have a great evening. And I appreciate the ability to speak. Thank you, Mayor Jordan. And I apologize for not addressing my question through you. That was my intent.
Yeah.
So no disrespect intended. I apologize.
Understood and accepted. Mohammed, did you want to comment on the facade, the lower facade there? I think that's a solid facade that you can see to the west of the parking.
Yeah, maybe.
Entrance.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor. So maybe it's just the rendering how it's shown right now. It's maybe a reflection of the building across the street. But what the intention is that we will have a clear glass on the ground plane. So you'll have a more of a continuous clear glass look along the ground floor that will house a series of restaurants, commercial units, cafes, and so on. And all these public use elements, they will have a public space in front of it, like a patio or a courtyard that would service that space as well. Yeah. So the intent is it's a continuous glass facade on the ground floor.
I think what I'll just add to that is that the frontage along the street is an active use. We have retail currently on the plan, but that could be revisited in terms of what the actual function and use might be. And then, as mentioned earlier, the restaurant is in behind that, and the public uses wrap around the building into the site, face the courtyard. So whichever, if you're on the street or interior to the property, you'd have that active use splitting out from not just the one side, but off from both. And as Mohammed just noted, that there would be patios on the interior where the restaurant is, but there would also be fill out areas on the street side to accommodate the retail uses, which very well could be a cafe of some kind. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mohammed. Nick, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a further comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan. Through you. If we could see a street rendering, that might solve the problem, because it's very difficult to see, Martin, what that's going to look like. So just you telling me that it's going to be glass on the ground floor and retail, it makes me feel better already, but it's hard to tell what that's going to look like. And from here, it looks like it doesn't look like that, if that makes sense to you. So if you have an image like that you can post somewhere to give us an idea of what that's going to look like, I would appreciate it. Thanks again.
I don't know if we can have the my architect, but perhaps we can just provide a zoomed in version of that section and then provide that to you, or make it available on the website, just so you can get a clearer view of the streetscape on that side.
Yes, I think that would clarify things if we could see something close, because this is from a long way away. So I think it looks like a reflection in the artist's rendering. So it's showing that it's reflecting, being glass. So that's my opinion, but that's what I see. But certainly a better scale would be much better. So Nick is finished. So we're moving to Anna Yurachik. Anna, welcome.
Welcome. Hello. My name is Anna Yurachik of 21 Cheval Drive, and I welcome the opportunity to speak today about this project. I've prepared a written statement, so I'll just read it if you don't mind. My family and I are relatively new Grimsby residents, having moved here from Mississauga only in 2018. And although new residents are here, Grimsby was not a random choice to relocate to. Being of Polish background, Grimsby and its place Polonaise hold a very special place for Polish people in Ontario, especially those who immigrated here in the 80s. And I do remember coming to Grimsby as a teenager to attend many summer events held here. So when the decision to move was made, Grimsby was the obvious choice. And in those last 3 years since we moved here, we have made an effort to become as local as possible to contribute to this beautiful town and region as much as we can. We visit local wineries and the restaurants. I have the olive oil loyalty card in Casa Toscana. We get Polish candy and sweets from the Dutch store. We make appointments at the Ellipsis Spa with Sandra and Sabrina, our favorite massage therapists. We cannot wait for the Le Maison Rose to open for coffee again, and the Olive Board too, so we can enjoy some cold cuts on a patio with friends. And a Sunday afternoon isn't complete without a walk along the lake on the boardwalk along Place Polonaise and all the way past the metal bridge to Grimsby Beach. Every week I read the local newspaper delivered to the door to get to know the town and its issues a bit better. And so far we have been successful in convincing 2 families from our circle of friends to move to the area. We love the feel of a small town here with the convenience of almost everything we need being along the main street. Having said all of that, I would like to voice my support for this new proposed development at the side of the Casablanca Hotel. I love the idea of including a replacement of the hotel there as well. I can already picture my family staying there overnight when they visit us in the new condo where we downsize from our current house. Yes, that is our goal for phase 1 of this new development, to move to the Grimsby on the Lake area in the next couple of years. And just to touch on earlier presentation, I love the idea that the spa will get a space there as well and will move out of the current basement. So I'm very excited about this project. However, I have certain aspects of it that I would like to ask about. From the documentation attached to the meeting that I got earlier, there is a table that shows a breakdown of unit type with 217 one-bedroom and 121 two-bedroom units. So for the 1-bedroom units, given their quantity is the largest in the project, are these going to be strictly a 1-bedroom type, or would these be a 1-bedroom and a den layouts? So that's my question. And then the second is the size of the units in terms of, so for all size of the units, in terms of the kitchen appliances, would these be 24 inches or larger? This is especially with regards to refrigerators and ovens. And I'm asking this and perhaps even highlighting these features, as my daughter currently lives in a 1-bedroom and a den condo in Toronto, and the 24-inch appliances are more of a decoration. At this size is definitely not intended to have families cook at home on a daily basis. And the same with sinks. Would kitchens in this project have double bowl sinks or a single bowl sinks? And at what size? So discussing these aspects before the plans are finalized will definitely spare some disappointment once the family moves in and finds their kitchen to be lacking functionality. And I would have never considered this to be an important planning point without visiting a few of the new condos downtown, where you actually can see the size before you agree to buy something that's clearly just on paper. So I would appreciate if more consideration be given to this point before the floor plans are finalized. So that is it for just my presentation. And if anybody can know the answer to my questions about the kitchen appliances in those units, I would greatly appreciate hearing. And if not at that time, then maybe later on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome for your presentation. Thank you, Anna. I think probably the best way to move forward is the consultants have your questions, and certainly as we move to the next meeting, they will be able to answer them, and we have your email on file, I believe, yeah. So we'd be able to answer that directly as well. So Martin, I think that works to move us forward with the rest of our delegations. Up next, we have Mark Kozak. Mark, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is my first public meeting I've attended.
Mark, just state your name and address, and that'd be perfect.
Mark Kozak, and my address is 60 Olive Street in Grimsby.
Perfect. Now you're welcome to go ahead with your comments.
So my concern with this proposal is, will the infrastructure be able to, like the road system around like this building and the 20-story building next to it, is that going to be able to handle this much building in one area? Like you guys are proposing 909 parking units in this structure, so I'm assuming you're expecting a large volume of people or vehicles in the area. Are the road systems going to be able to handle that sort of volume? And are they able to be sort of, can the infrastructure be adapted in the future if you find that they're not able to handle this much development and that many vehicles in the area at one time? That's that's my big concern. Sorry. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Do we want to just take that question and Martin, you can provide an answer now. It's up to you now, or if you want to provide one.
I can certainly provide an answer to that question.
Excellent.
In terms of both the transportation infrastructure and municipal sanitary water infrastructure, as part of our application, we had to submit certain reports to ensure that we wouldn't be overburdening the system, or if there were improvements to be required to upgrade these either road networks or pipes in the ground, that we had to do it. So we have submitted a transportation report that outlines the traffic generation that would be coming from this proposal. And that report takes into consideration existing neighboring lands and their traffic generation, as well as proposed future traffic like what's being proposed next door.
Yeah.
So that analysis is done. It's in for review. It's reviewed by both the region, mega region, and town staff. I don't think we have final sign off on that report, and that will come. And if there are issues with our rationale or conclusions, then we'll be forced to change them and make sure that they fit with, to ensure that we're, again, not overburdening, and if there are improvements to be made, we will do so. And that goes for, again, the municipal services as well. So we have a functional servicing report that looks at the size of the pipes. Can they handle what we're proposing here? Are there improvements required in the system to ensure that we fit and that the neighboring lands fit? And recommendations for improvements can be made, and that report again is reviewed by the town, and they will say yes or no. And if it's a no, then what do we have to do to fix or improve the system? So to answer your question, yes, we do that analysis. That reporting is in. We feel that adequate capacity in the road networks and adequate capacity in the sanitary and water network to accommodate this proposal and others. But ultimately, that's the call of staff to say, Martin, you're right, or Martin, you're wrong. So we're still waiting for that response. But again, we've done that reporting, and what we've concluded is that there's adequate capacity throughout. And I believe the reports are online if you care to take a look. Engineering reports are my cup of tea, but if you're interested in reviewing engineering reports, by all means.
Thank you, Martin. Mark, any further comments?
No, I was like my concern, because we moved here from Oakville, and we saw a lot of development happening in Oakville with a lot of so the high-rise condos sort of being developed in areas where it feels like the infrastructure was never sort of, especially the road systems, were never sort of accounted for. Because driving across Oakville now, I can drive from Grimsby to Oakville faster than I can drive from one end of Oakville to the other now. And they've spent there's a lot of traffic lights there. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting these smart traffic lights in so they can accommodate the overwhelming traffic that's in the areas now. And my concern is that I just don't want this to become a bottleneck or just gridlock by the lake. That's my concern as a citizen of Grimsby here. Thanks.
Yes, I think we all share your concerns on that note. Having no further questions, I'll move to number 5, Liam Killeen. Liam?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. My name is Liam Killeen of 77 Esplanade Lane in Grimsby, Ontario, pretty much directly across from where the proposed park is that we're viewing right now. Martin, I just wanted to thank you very much for such a thorough presentation. It was great to actually see in great detail what might be coming to the area, and like most that have spoken so far, personally, I support it. I love it. I'm coming to you today as the president of the Niagara North Standard Condominium Corporation, number 289. We are directly across the street. You can see us in that view of the townhouses. We are 59 mixed use, 40 residential and 19 commercial units. And I'm also speaking today on behalf of Niagara North Common Elements Corporation 270, which are just north of us, 124 townhomes in that area as well. I know that we've discussed parking. It's come up. I'm happy to see that the number has risen. I wanted to officially put on record, I'm concerned that it's still not enough. As it stands right now in our corporation, we are at 85 shared visitor parking spaces for 144 residences, 19 businesses. And that's in addition to the 45 public parking spots available on Winston right now between Hunter and Place Polonaise, and that is inclusive of accessible parking. So as we stand right now, if you're in our area, due to COVID and due to the fact that everything is still so very new here, we're only at about 50% occupancy for our businesses, and parking has already been stretched. This is off season as well. So this doesn't deal with beach season and the improvements that are being made to the lake area. This doesn't deal with more retail, the Odyssey building going in, etc. I would just love to formally see if it's even possible to add another layer of parking to what you already have existing, I don't believe that it's excessive. The way that I look at it now is if we're looking at both of these phases being fully operational and successful, I'm assuming with the amenities, you know, I read into that and I hear weddings. So I think between, you know, May 24th and Thanksgiving, every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that place is going to be full, and that's amazing and great for the economy. But I think that when you look at the number of residents that have vehicles, the number of hotel guests that have vehicles, and the number of people that will be attending all of these, you know, weddings, anniversaries, spa, pool, what have you, and then we include retail in that, I think that we're going to run into an issue where you're going to see that our parking is woefully inadequate. The issue that I run into that is that I understand that parking is, you know, on the, you know, completely just on the surface, it's not a huge moneymaker. But what I'm seeing is that we have the option here to maybe go hourly, maybe be charging the guests that are in the hotel. Maybe there's a situation where if you're supporting local businesses in the community, if you're spending over $20, you get 90 minutes free validated, something along those lines to encourage people to come here as well. The way that I look at this here is I'm going to use Liberty Village in Toronto as an example. You know, high, pack them in, pack them in, pack them in. And a lot of great retail that anyone outside of Liberty Village, which is a place that doesn't exactly have a lot of car culture, can't really enjoy because there's nowhere for them to stop. So, I mean, I'm looking at this where we've got GO Transit coming in, and that's fantastic. We've got, you know, Niagara Regional Transit on demand. That's fantastic as well. My concern is that if this building, if phase 1 and phase 2 are as successful as we're all hoping and we're all planning they will be, we're going to be looking at where are these people going to park? And if it ends up coming into our area, which we feel was well thought out, we're dealing with a mass shortage already, and that's off season. So again, love the idea, love the renderings. I hope that you'll consider perhaps putting in more parking, not because you have to, but it just might make things in the neighborhood run a little more smoothly. Those are my only comments.
Thank you, Liam. Your comments have been noted. Martin, if you want to make any comment now, feel free, but they've been recorded.
I think that the parking issue has been, I think, the largest issue we've had to come across, and we've done our best to provide more than required. To be honest, the rates that we're finding here are usually on the high side, but because we understand that the parking is a necessity as part of this part of town and within Grimsby, that we had to meet the minimums, and in fact we're exceeding them. So I appreciate the comments of the additional level of parking, and we're already at 3 levels of underground. I am by no means an economist of any kind, but there comes a point when going down a 4th level, which doesn't happen too often, becomes cost prohibitive. So perhaps we can look at efficiencies in the underground that we've got right now in the 3 levels to maybe eke out a few more. But I don't know if going down to a 4th level makes economical sense. That might be at the detriment of other parts of the proposal. So I think we can have a quick chat with my clients at Rosso to see if that's possible, maybe to make it more efficient, but I just don't know if we can go down that extra 4th. But we'll take a look. We'll take a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Liam, for your comments and concerns. If you don't have any more, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Adam Mottershead. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you. Just welcome to everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to make some comments tonight through the mayor. Oh, by the way, Adam Mottershead, 25 Red Haven Drive. My comments are more about, unfortunately, parking. I just want to confirm from the planner, was 1792 the total square meters, the total for the restaurant and retail?
Is that the square meter?
Sorry, you're muted.
or just checking my stat table here. So the question was 1792 for the retail and restaurant.
Correct.
So I just need to do some quick math here.
We can take the questions at the end if that works, and then you
Okay.
can continue with your presentation.
Okay, because I looked at the traffic impact study, which has some of the parking information there. So it quoted the retail as being 1,314 square meters, restaurant 239, which totals 1,553 square meters. And I guess that's where they're basing in part the calculation of 909 on. And curiously enough, if you have your calculator handy, difference between 1792 and 1553 is exactly 239 square meters, which is the size of the restaurant. So it looks like it's been removed twice from the calculation when they split the retail and the restaurant components. So I don't know, is 1792 the correct one? Because I've seen it in the planning justification report. It was also in the PowerPoint, but the traffic impact study is quoting 1553. So I'm just wondering how that affects the calculation, which one is correct. Also, I'm just wondering how they arrived at 0.74 spaces, parking spaces per hotel room. So I did a little research and I looked at actually the plain justification report says, using the ITE 5th edition parking rates, the subject site requires 54 spaces for the hotel use. So that, I think further in the planning justification report, it says the 0.74 spaces per room. So I looked at the ITE guide and actually is a 0.74 rate in there, but it only applies for weekdays. It doesn't account for weekends. And the weekend rates are 1.15 to 1.18 spaces per room. And then there's a quote actually from the IT handbook that says, the average parking supply ratios for both the 17 study sites located in a general urban suburban setting and the 2 study sites in a dense multi-use urban setting are 1.1 spaces per room. So with the 72 rooms, that would be 82 spaces required under ITE. Zoning bylaw says it has to be 1 space per room, which would be 72 spaces. So I just don't understand why there's such a vast reduction to the 0.74 rate. It's not taking into account the weekend. And as the previous delegate spoke, on the weekends, there's going to be a lot of people down there. In the summer times, I can picture the hotel once things bounce back, 100% occupancy. So yeah, definitely parking is going to be a concern. And also that I checked the zoning bylaw to see if they could be shared parking with maybe perhaps residential or whatever, but actually hotel is not listed as a use that can be shared. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Up next, we have Vinod Bihaga. Vinod, welcome.
Hi there. This is Vinod Bihaga from 40 Inglewood Court in Grimsby. My family have been living here in Grimsby since 1988 when I got married. We've moved only once. We are 40 Inglewood Court right now. And thoroughly enjoy Grimsby. It's a nice small town. I like all the concerns that people have had regarding the parking. Can the roads handle the traffic, which were my concerns too. The other concern that I do have is, yes, why does it have to be so high? That's one. And the second concern is that when the number of rooms or number of condominiums have been arranged or calculated, why do they have to be so small? Because I notice in Grimsby, everything is getting smaller and smaller, so you can make it more denser and denser. And I'm not in favor of that, but those are my comments.
All right, thank you very much for your comments. They will be noted. Did Ken Weeb, did we get a hold of him? Is he? No. All right, moving along. We had one set of correspondence from our resident Robert Griscom from 515 Winston Road. So that has been added to the notes of the meeting. And Martin, did you have any further comments that you want to make? Entirely up to you.
At the moment, I think I hear the concern of parking loud and clear. It's funny, maybe an anecdote. When I do these types of meetings, it's usually the other way around, where you're trying to get more cars off the plan and lower the number of vehicles. But we can certainly take a look at the parking distribution and see if there's some efficiencies to be made. But again, we've done our best to meet the bylaw and exceed it. So that again, typically isn't done with parking. You're looking the direction where you're reducing numbers, but here we want to make sure we at least meet the requirement and provide a little more at the top end. So I just want to make that note in terms of how we're looking at the parking distribution in the buildings. Thank you.
Great, that's appreciated, and we certainly hearing from the delegates this evening, parking was certainly the #1 issue. Walter, did you want to take that screen off so I can see the full view? All right, so we just have to receive report 21-08. So we just need a mover and seconder from council to receive that. Moved by Councillor Sharp and seconder Councillor Dunstall. All right. I see no other questions, so I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that report PA 21-08 dated March 8, 2021 be received. Oh, Councillor Sharp, you have a question?
Yeah, is this an appropriate time for council to ask questions of the presenters? Or is that coming up?
Yeah, you can ask your question now.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Jordan. Through you, I just would like to ask a question of Martin. So I'm looking at the count of units, and it looks like, so this is something that I haven't really seen before, but it looks like about half of the units are 2 and 3 bedroom. And so I'm seeing that there is, it's like 48% of the units are 2 or 3 bedroom, or the townhouses, which I presume are either 2 or 3 bedrooms, or the 2-story lofts, which I also presume are 2 or 3 bedrooms. Can you just answer, are those lofts and townhouses, are they 2 or 3 bedrooms?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if we've gotten to the point of laying out each unit. I think there was a question earlier from a delegate regarding the size of the units and the kitchen layouts and all of that. We haven't gone to the point of detailing each floor plan as that will lay out the exact room locations. If you look at our floor plans, we just have the boxes on the plan that denote the size of the space. But I can certainly provide you a breakdown. I don't have it handy, forgive me, but perhaps I can lean on my architects here to provide a more finite breakdown of the unit count that we have proposed at the moment. So perhaps it
okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think this is good. I think that this is more 2 and 3 bedrooms than we usually see in these buildings. Normally, there's a lot more 1 bedrooms than there is 2 and 3 bedrooms. And it looks like there's about 50-50. And so that's a nice split of like the type of units. So my other question is, will most of them be within one of the buildings, or like is one building a 1-bedroom and one building a 2 and 3 bedroom, or is it a mix throughout both buildings?
Sure, I'll unmute. You, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's going to be a mix of unit types throughout. The distribution hasn't been set yet. That comes at the next site plan stage where we drill a bit deeper to define the layout of each floor. But one won't be just strictly 1-bedrooms, and one won't just be 2 and 3 bedrooms. It's going to be out between the both buildings. The only difference between the two is one has a hotel and those functions, whereas the other one does not.
Okay, and that leads me into my question about the hotel. So it looks like the hotel rooms are within the residential building, but they're all, where are the hotel rooms, and how will you deal with the hotel and the residential together? Or is there any conflicts between those, and is there consideration for that?
To answer your second question first, no, there is no conflict. Hotels are deemed traditionally a residential use anyway. There wouldn't be any conflicts with having guests stay a night or two or a week, whatever it might be, and having a resident who would live in the building. So the facilities will be shared, and that will be clear within any purchase documents in terms of what they can and can't do. But there wouldn't be any conflict between the two uses themselves. In terms of where is the hotel, as part of our floor plans, we did detail exactly where the various components would be. And the hotel portion is in the 4-story podium, as well as a portion of the 11-story area within phase 1. I can send you or provide you with the full architectural drawings, and they're all listed there. And that table identifies exactly where the hotel rooms are as well.
Yeah, I was looking at this, and in phase 1, it looks like all the hotel rooms are within that 4-story podium. But so that does give it a bit of a separation, which I think is a good to have the residential here and the hotel somewhat separate, and but also the hotel closer to the commercial and the restaurant area.
And
I think that's good.
We're not this far in terms of the building design, but there are mechanisms you could put in place to separate uses where a key fob will take you to floors 12 and above, and hotel patrons wouldn't have access to those stories. Same with the parking. If you've got dedicated parking for residents on a certain floor, then the fob will take you or allow you to go down to P2 or P3, whereas P1 is reserved for commercial and retail and hotel patrons.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. My other question, I'm kind of going back to my first question. What are the sizes of the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units?
I'm going to rely on my architects here, so perhaps Mohammed and or Nick, if you could jump in and give me provide the council with some detail on unit sizes.
So it's Mohammed here from Reeves NMH. We are working with a range of 600 square meters to 600 square feet to 1,200 square foot for the 3 bedrooms. But then with the breakdown and figuring out the actual unit mix, we can provide a detailed breakdown for those units.
Okay, so I look forward to seeing more detail. 600 to 1,200 square feet. Thank you for that.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Through you to presenters, Martin. I did receive some correspondence from a resident in the local area, and it relates to the wind and shadow studies. And I think the planning staff at the beginning of the presentation, Margarita, mentioned that the wind and shadow study requires some updating before they proceed. And I didn't actually see a wind study document attached in the documents on the Let's Talk Grimsby website. I just wondered if that's available, and a full shadow study. Just the summary is in the urban design brief. I just wondered if those two can be posted when they're available, because some of the concerns that came out of that from this resident is that, you know, that would help us to look at the tower separation. And in our both station secondary plan, one of our guidelines for tall buildings in that is 25-meter separation. And that's part of it is because of the wind impacts. So just if that can be looked at and the presenters can maybe clarify what the tower separations are. And what mitigations will be put in place. I think this has come up in some of the previous discussions for the pedestrian realm with the downdrafts and the architectural mitigations that will be used to make it more pedestrian friendly on the east-west or south elevations of the complex. So those are some questions that were raised by the resident. And then I also noticed in the comment matrix from the region that they noted that this is with regards to infrastructure. The current operational capacity of the Roberts Road sewage pumping station was identified for a sustainability upgrade to maximize the force main capacity, and a project has been identified in the 10-year capital budget to complete these upgrades. Based on the monitoring which has been completed for the pumping station, there's capacity currently at the station, and once the upgrade is completed, the station will have capacity to accommodate the project development out to 2041. So my question is just, and this might be for our regional councillors, and just to come back and let us know how that, what the timing of that project is, and how.
Councillor Bothwell, we're having difficulty hearing you.
Sorry, okay. So, did you hear me about the pumping station? Roberts Road pumping station?
Yeah, it's actually getting worse right now.
Okay.
There, that's better.
Okay. The last question I have is just about the fire response time. And in the comment matrix, the fire chief here, or the acting fire chief in Grimsby, does note that we do not have fire response in the West End, and that the proposed development lies in the urban zone of Grimsby, though it has a rural, it'll have a rural response, and that with no fire station and the vertical rise of all high buildings, the response goal criteria will not be met, and the available or projected need for a safe community will not be met. So just wondering if we as a town can look seriously at how to help get that response time to the urban rating rather than the rural rating of response time, and how we can advance getting some fire response out here in the West End, because I think this, again, this report is indicating the priority with the continued new developments that we're putting in. So just those are just some things that came out of those questions. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. That will all be in the subsequent staff report. Councillor Vardy.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the architects. And, you know, it's just a comment, but I do find there's a certain discordance between the two buildings, with the one having this sort of dramatic height, you know, as opposed to the juxtaposition of the other. And I guess I'm wondering is, would there be some way to, I guess, increase the 12 to lower the 19? Just, I mean, I don't mind that they're two different heights, but I just feel it's quite a dramatic difference. And from an aesthetic, to my mind, it just seems to be a bit jarring. Maybe Mohammed, you'd like to address that.
Yes, certainly. So our intent in terms of the massing is to really maintain the height throughout the two podiums together. So if you notice that we do have an equal height of podium between the two buildings, the 3 and 4 stories. So that's one line. The other datum that we kind of maintained is the 11-story height. So you also have that datum running across the whole length of the site at 11 stories. The portion that sticks out beyond the 11 stories, which goes up to 19, is only a small portion, and the footprint of that would be 750 square meters roughly. We do a lot of work in other parts of the city and in Toronto, and we use guidelines that are put in different parts of the city. So we find that the 750 footprint over there, it kind of provide a good sizable proportion that kind of, how do I say that? It's an elegant proportion that fits within the overall setup of the podium here. And the other thing that we maintained is a terracing look. So there is no sudden jump between the podium and the taller portion. There is always that build up of the mass. There's always this terracing that we're maintaining.
If I could maybe add a couple comments as well in terms of how the massing is organized on the site. On the left side of the building, or this image here, you'll see the Odyssey building here. I believe that's at 20 stories. So we pushed the bulkiest of the buildings to, or rather the tallest of the buildings to that side to lessen the impacts of a tall building. And then as we move across the site from the east to the west, we start to drop the height to that 12 stories on the north service side portion. And then that transitions down to the townhouses that are across the north service. So we're looking to create this angle that drops in height as you move towards the low-rise buildings. And this partially also deals with shadowing. Having a tower or more height in that corner lends to the opportunity for more shadowing. And that's not what we want to do. We want to keep the shadows in the area where they're shadowed already. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. It's good to see that you are putting this development not in a silo on itself, but looking at other things that are going to be built in the area and that are already existing. So that's like what we like to see. Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is to Martin, I guess, and the team. This is a spectacular project. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm really thrilled that this hotel is coming back in a more modernized form, and you're offering the retail space, the spa, the pool, and so on and so forth. And I think I speak for a lot of people in town. However, I had a concern about the parking when we had the first meeting, and I still would like to voice that opinion now. And I'm not going to echo what Liam Killeen and Adam Moffat has already said, but when you consider that there's 72 rooms in the hotel, the residents of 420, with only 909 spaces, and they're all underground, it doesn't look like you've factored in the spaces for the conference center when you're having large events, or for the restaurants, and the retail, the spa, the pool, et cetera, et cetera. I really would like to encourage you to go back and look at those parking in a little more detail, because I think we really do need more parking there. I won't speak to the traffic. It is what it is, but I know we're going to have a traffic problem down there in that whole area. But I must admit, I'm really thrilled you guys are doing this, and I love the hotel and the condos. I don't know if you can have, if you want more parking, you maybe have to have less units. I don't know if that's something you want to consider. It might be something. I just wanted to have a question for you, a couple of questions on the rendering here. Where are the entrances to the underground parking? Is the underground parking spread across the whole footprint, or is it in two different areas, or how does it work? I don't see any. I don't see the spaces with the parking for the parking garage. Maybe I missed it. Maybe Martin can speak to that.
Sorry, I was talking to myself with mute. I apologize. If you're looking at the phase 1 building, which is on the right-hand side of this image, you'll see the access in the top right corner. You'll see a very long arrow pointing down south, and that's the ramp for phase 1 down.
Okay, so is this the same way in and the same way out?
It's the access in the garage for phase 1, and The underground will be excavated for phase 1 only initially, while it's being constructed and the hotel remains. And once phase 2 is ready to go, they would demolish the hotel and build the remainder of the underground. So the access for phase 2 is off Windward Drive. So if you're looking at the boomerang on the south side, something very similar, you'll see a long arrow pointing up in the bottom left portion of this image, and that is the ramp for phase 2. So there's 2 different access points for the development, and it will provide full moves in and out for the undergrounds. Sorry, Councilor, you're on mute.
Councillor Frick, you're muted.
Sorry. If you go up to the rendering where you look at the complex from Winston Road, can you just pull that up for a sec? There. The podium there is, do I see parking spaces on top of the podium? Or is that are those cars, or is it something else?
No, Councilor, those are lounge chairs.
Okay. Small cars.
Yeah, they're minis. No, it's an amenity space for the building. So there'd be outdoor courtyards and barbecue areas and apparently lounge space on the roof, but there will be no parking in either building.
Okay. All right. Anyways, I'll leave it at that, and hopefully you will have put some more efforts into sorting out the parking issues that everybody has. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your presentations and comments tonight. I have the resolution here, moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that report PA 21-08 dated March 8th, 2021 be received. And with so many people on the screen, the clerk's going to have a recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp? Councillor Sharp? Okay. Councillor Frake?
Yes.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Cowbell?
Yes.
Councillor Vane? Councillor Vane? Mayor Jordan?
Yes. Did you get it, Councillor Vardy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Moving on. That's everything. So thank you again, everyone, for tonight, and I really appreciate the decorum that was received by everyone tonight. And everyone, good evening and have a good night. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.